And we're back. NFL Week 16 predictions. We're in the final little home stretch. All the teams really almost locked up in the playoffs, but still 3 games to go for all these teams. So we're going to go ahead and talk about all of them, in their respective episodes. But after last week, I ended up going 12-4, making my season total 151-73 on the season. Now, if you're curious about the games I got wrong, being the Colts, Broncos, Buccaneers, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, and Dolphins, Texans. With my lock of the week being the Atlanta Falcons, which they did win, putting my total to 13-2. We're going to get right into it, starting out December 19th, 8:15 p.m., all games in Eastern Standard Time. We have the 9-5 Broncos versus the 8-6 Chargers, with the Broncos being the away team going first. They got a good win, 38-13 over the Colts, or 31-13, something like that. That was a much-win game for them, as they now have pretty much locked up their playoff spot. Assuming they win one of their final 3 games, they're in. Same with the Chargers, so they lock up their spot with a win this week. Same with the Chargers, who ended up losing to the Buccaneers 41-17, so not a great game for them. Now, with this game being played in LA, I am going to go with the Chargers for this one. I do feel like this will be a very high anticipated matchup, and I do believe it will live up to the expectations that it has. But I do think the Chargers will win this game and lock up their playoff spot. Moving on to our next game, we have the Texans and the Chiefs. Saturday, December 21st, 1 p.m. The Texans 9-5 coming off of a 20-12 win over the Dolphins. A very ugly win, but a win is a win. While the Chiefs 21-7 win over the Browns. Now, the key thing to note about this game is Patrick Mahomes obviously suffering that high ankle sprain injury. Big question is, will he play this week? If I'm the Chiefs, I'm going to sit him out this week and have him ready for Christmas. Obviously, I'm not the Chiefs, so who knows. But I'm picking the Texans because I do not believe Patrick Mahomes will play. Now, granted, I also love Carson Wentz. I think he has a chance to lead that team to a victory. But I don't think he's going to outdo a guy like CJ Stroud. So, give me the Texans. Moving on to the 4:30 p.m. game, we have the Steelers, who are 10-4, at Ravens, who are 9-5. Bit of the same situation as the Broncos Chargers. The Steelers coming off of an embarrassing 27-13 loss to the Eagles, while the Ravens coming off of an impressive 35-14 win over the Giants. The key thing to note is this is probably going to decide the division, whoever wins this game. Especially if the Steelers win, they would have such a huge lead. I think they would honestly lock it up immediately. They would. I'm going to pick the Ravens for this one because the Ravens are in the playoffs with a win, or if, some other things go in their favor. And I just think the Ravens are going to win this game. Obviously, the Steelers having a tough stretch, have to game plan for not only the Eagles last week, but then you got the Ravens this week, you got the Chiefs next week, and then you got the Bengals to close out. That is a brutal schedule, so it's a good thing the Steelers clinched their playoff spot now because I honestly could see them going 0-4 in these final 4 games. So give me the Ravens. Moving on to the next day, Sunday, December 22nd, our 1 o'clock slate. We have a bunch. We have the Lions, that's the next game. The Giants, who are 2-12 at the Falcons, who are 7-7. Now, the Giants coming off of a 35-14 loss to the Ravens, while the Falcons 15-9 win over the Raiders. Very impressive, I know. Key thing to note for this game as well, it is going to be Michael Penix Jr., who is projected to be the starter. Kirk Cousins officially landing on the bench. And I do believe Michael Penix Jr. This is the best time to start him when you're going up against a weak team who is fighting for that number 1 overall pick like the Giants. So I do believe the Falcons are going to win this game. I don't know how convincing it's going to be. It's going to be a rookie quarterback with his first start. I don't know. All I know is I trust the Falcons enough to win this game. Maybe he even plays better than what they would have with Kirk Cousins. Moving on to the Lions-Bears game now. The Lions, 12-2, they actually lost. That's crazy to say. They lost 48-42 to the Buffalo Bills, suffering a lot of injuries as well. The Bears, 4-10, they also lost, but that one's not that surprising. 30-13 to the Vikings. This is a huge game for both sides because the Bears, this is their second to last division game. They're at threat of being shut out in division going 0-6. That's not a great look, especially for, your rookie quarterback, number 1 overall pick in his first season. The Lions, they're fighting for their lives now. If they win out, they get the 1 seed. Now, they play the Vikings in Week 18. If the Vikings win out, they get that 1 seed. So, the Lions really can't afford to make a mistake because, they are very reliant on winning that Vikings game. And they're also pretty reliant on the Eagles not doing great either. That being said, I'm taking the Lions because, well, even with all the injuries they suffered, they're still the Detroit Lions. I mean, come on. Next, we have the Cardinals and Panthers. The Cardinals 7-7 coming off of a 30-17 win over the Patriots, but the score is a lot closer than the game was. The Cardinals dominated, while the Panthers coming off of a sad 16-point loss. It was 30-14, I believe, to the Cowboys. Same situation. Cowboys dominated that game. Panthers just managed to keep it at 2 scores. This is a huge game for the Cardinals. Their playoff hopes really rely on this game. If they want to keep staying in the race, they're going to have to win this game. Panthers, they're looking towards the draft at this point. They're well out. And I do think this game will benefit both sides. I have the Cardinals winning, so they'll stay alive in the playoff race. And the Panthers getting a loss that will help with their draft position. Moving on to our next one, we have the Rams, who are 8-6, at the Jets, who are 4-10. Now, the Rams coming off of a good 12-6 win over the 49ers in the game where they won with 4 field goals while allowing 2. Jets, 32-25 win over the Jaguars. Really great win there. Really great game. This is huge for both sides. Same thing with the Rams. Their playoff hopes really are going to rely on not only this game, but their matchup with the Seahawks later on in the season. That will probably decide the division. And the Jets, well, same thing as the Panthers, looking towards the draft. Thankfully for both sides, again, I do have the Rams winning. However, with how the Jets played last week, I expect this to be a high-scoring, close game. So, if there's any game to watch this week, this is probably the number one. Or at least out of the 1 o'clock slate. Huge game now. Eagles-Commanders. Eagles 12-2, coming off of an impressive 27-13 win over the Steelers. They dominated. The score doesn't say it, but they dominated. Commanders coming off of a 20-19 win over the Saints, where they survived off of a failed 2-point conversion. They were right there losing. The big thing to note for this game is if the Eagles win, they clinch their division. If the Commanders win, they stay alive in their division for another day. I also think the Commanders would pretty much lock up a playoff spot with a win, assuming the Seahawks and Rams don't tie in their Week 18 game and they both win out outside of that. I'm going to take the Eagles, though, because the Eagles are looking like arguably the best team in the league, and I don't think they're going to slip up in a situation where they can lock up their division. Next, we got the Battle of Ohio. The Browns, 3-11. They actually benched Jameis Winston after coming off of a 21-7 loss to the Chiefs. It's going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson's team, at least for this week, potentially for the rest of the season, I'd imagine. Bengals. They're 6-8. They got a win over the Titans, 37-27, to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they're starting to pick up steam. So if they're able to, have the Broncos or the Chargers lose out, I would not be surprised to see Cincinnati in the playoffs. However, it is a long shot, but they are looking like they could get it done. With that being said, I think they're going to continue their little win streak they have going. So give me the Bengals. Sorry, DTR, I love you, but I don't think you're going to win that game. Next, we have the Titans, who are 3-11, coming off of another loss we just talked about to the Bengals, 37-27, while the Colts coming off of a 31-13 loss to the Broncos, which pretty much ended all of their playoffs hopes. Now they're going to need to win out and the Broncos or Chargers to lose out. Thankfully, I do think they're also going to get what they need done. Same thing as, before. One team's fighting for the playoff spot. The other team's fighting for the draft. I'm going to take the Colts because it makes sense from both sides. Colts to win, Titans to lose. Both teams benefit. Next, we have our first and only 4:05 p.m. game, the 12-2 Vikings versus the 8-6 Seahawks. The Vikings coming off of a good 30-13 win over the Bears, while the Seahawks not so great 30-13 loss to the Packers. Now, the key thing to note is Geno Smith did suffer an injury in that Packers game. I don't know if he's going to play this game. Even if he does play, it's going to be while injured. So because of that, I am going to take the Vikings. Now, if we're talking about a healthy Geno Smith, I could potentially see the Seahawks pulling this one out. But we're not going to talk hypotheticals on this channel. At least not this week. So I'm going to take the Vikings. Moving on to our next one, we have the Patriots, who are 3-11 at the Bills, who are 11-3. Same situation. One team benefits from losing, the other benefits from winning. We're going to talk about the games first, though. Patriots, they ended up losing 30-17 to the Cardinals. And I keep saying it, a game that was a lot, more dominant than it showed. Cardinals dominated, but only won by 13. The Bills, 48-42 win over the Lions. They did it. I didn't know if it was possible besides their Week 2 loss to the Buccaneers, but the Bills did it. They actually dethroned the Lions. With that being said, I'm taking the Bills because there's realistically no way that we go from the Bills winning against the Lions to losing to the Patriots. Moving on to our next one, we have the Jaguars and Raiders. The Jaguars 3-11, coming off of a just shy 32-25 loss to the Jets, while the Raiders 15-9 loss to the Falcons. Respect to the Raiders, though, they did a great job allowing the Falcons to only score 15 points. That's a great stat in itself. I'm going to take the Jaguars because, Mac Jones looks like he is getting really comfortable with that team. I do think they are going to win this game, and unfortunately for the Raiders, with Aiden O'Connell potentially coming back with that injury, I think there's going to be a lot of mistakes. Plus, they would benefit a lot because they currently hold a number 1 pick in the draft, so who doesn't like that? Final 425 game, we have the 49ers, who are 6-8, coming off of a 12-6 loss to the Rams, at the Dolphins, who are 6-8, coming off of a 20-12 loss to the Texans. Both these teams, same situation, fighting for their very outside chance to make the playoffs. They're holding on to anything they have. I do believe the Dolphins are going to win this game with these 49ers injuries and star guys like Deebo Samuel, who have not been playing up to standard. Thanks, Deebo. You've really helped my fantasy team out. I think they are going to make a slip up here, and I do think the Dolphins are going to win this game, although it will be a very entertaining game between two teams, at the bottom of the barrel, scrapping for anything they have in that playoff race. Moving on to our night game, 8:20 p.m., we got the Buccaneers, who are 8-6, the Cowboys, who are 6-8. The Buccaneers, 41-17 win over the Chargers. Beautiful game, by the way. That was amazing by the Buccaneers. Cowboys, 30-14 win over the Panthers. Not bad. The Panthers, though, so I don't know how much really holds. I do believe this will be a very underrated game. I do think it will be a close game. I do think it will be a high-scoring game. I do think it will be a Buccaneers win either way, though. I just don't see the Cowboys with their backup quarterback pulling off an upset against one of the hottest, good-looking teams in the league. Finally, Monday, 8:15 p.m., December 23rd, the 5-9 Saints at the 10-4 Packers. Saints coming off of a 1-point loss, 20-19 to the Commanders, while the Packers 30-13 win over the Seahawks. Really great win for them. Same thing as I talked about before. The Packers are in the playoffs with a win. The Saints fighting for same thing, bottom of the barrel of the playoff race. Anything that could get them, a boost in the playoff race. But it would benefit them more if they lost and got a decent draft pick. I am going to take the Packers, especially because the Saints are going to be rolling with a backup quarterback. And, the Packers have looked like one of the better teams in the league ever since they came off their bye week. So I do think we'll see a really good Packers team. Now, what you may have noticed is I did forget to say my lock of the week. I actually decided to save it for last. I totally didn't forget to announce it when I said their team or anything. It's the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to win against the Seahawks, especially with Geno either being injured or being out and it being the backup quarterback. It just makes sense to take the Vikings in this situation. Save the good teams for the end is my strategy always. And, when you have a good team in a favorable matchup, you're going to take it 10 times out of 10. But if you don't know what lock of the week is, I say it every time. Every week, I'm allowed to pick one team only. If they win, fantastic. If they lose, not so fantastic. I'm 13-2. The only catch is I'm only allowed to pick each team once. So I have to decide, do I want to use the good teams early? Do I want to save them for later? In this instance, I decided to save the Vikings for a rainy day, and, it's a rainy day. Now, there are also a few things to talk about in terms of the playoff picture that we'll quickly go over. We're going to start out with just the basic playoff picture. Entering today, we have the Chiefs, who are clinched their division at 13-1 at the 1 seed for the AFC, while the Lions, 12-2, have clinched just a playoff spot in the NFC at the 1 seed. The good thing for winning your conference in the regular season is you get a bye, so they get to skip the first round. The 2 seeds being the Bills, 10-3, they've clinched their division. And the Eagles, 11-2, they've clinched the playoff spot. The 7 seeds who will be going against the Bills and Eagles are the Chargers, who are 8-6, who have not clinched yet, but they can with a win. And the Commanders, who are 9-5, who also have not clinched yet, but I believe there is a world where they can this week. It's just very far-fetched, so yeah. The 3 seeds being the Steelers, who are 10-4, they have clinched a playoff spot, and the Buccaneers, who are 8-6, they have not clinched, nor can they clinch this week. Going against the 6 seeds, who are the Broncos, who are 9-5, and Packers, who are 10-4, neither of them have clinched yet, although they both can with a win, or certain things going in their favor if they happen to lose. And then the 4 seeds being the Texans, who are 9-5, they have clinched their division, and the Rams, who are 8-6, they have not clinched. And they cannot. 5 seeds being the Ravens, who are 9-5, who have not clinched but can with a win. And same thing as the other teams if certain things go in their favor. And then the Vikings, who are 12-2, they have clinched a playoff spot, but they cannot clinch their division or the 1 seed yet. So realistically, we're looking at the playoff picture right now. It's probably going to be these 14 teams minus maybe the Falcons and Buccaneers substitute, or the Seahawks and Rams substitute. Their divisions are really close, only decided by half a game. So I can see either of that happening. Now, the teams who are eliminated, there are a few of them. We have, starting out in the AFC, we have the 3-11 Browns, so they're done. We have the Jaguars, who are 3-11, they're done. We have the Titans, who are 3-11, they're done. We have the Jets, who are 4-10, they're done. We have the Patriots, who are 3-11, they're done. And we have the Raiders, who are 2-12, they are done. Now in the NFC, we have the Bears, who are 4-10, they are done. Panthers, 3-11, they're done. Giants, who are 2-12, they're done. That's it. There's only 3 teams in the NFC compared to all these teams in the AFC. Teams in the hunt, though, there are a few. We have in the AFC the Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals, all representing a 6-8 record, currently chasing really the loser of this Broncos-Chargers game, because whoever loses that game is who those teams are going to need to rely on to lose out. And then in the NFC, we have in the hunt, we have the Falcons, Saints, Cowboys, Cardinals, 49ers. Now, certain teams need a lot to happen. Like, for example, the Saints, they can only make the playoffs through their division, and they're 5-9. So they have to hope that the Buccaneers and Falcons both lose out and they win out in order to win their division. Same with the 49ers. They, I think, theoretically can get a wild card spot. However, it will be incredibly outrageous for it to happen. They can get a playoff spot, I believe, by winning out, the Cardinals losing at least 2 of their final 3, the Rams losing every game they play, and the Seahawks losing out minus that Week 18 game versus the Rams. I believe that is the only path for the 49ers into the playoffs. The Cowboys, same thing. They need to win out, and they need to hope the Commanders lose out, and some other teams get some help. Same with the Cardinals. They need to, obviously, they don't need to win out, but it would be really good for them. It's really just a battle between the Falcons and the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Although the Cardinals do have a more outside shot than the other two. But Seahawks and Falcons, the Seahawks and Rams control their destiny. If they win out, they make the playoffs. The Falcons, on the other hand, they need to win out, and they need to hope the Buccaneers just drop one of their final 3 and they're in. So, realistic paths for all those teams. The Cardinals obviously going to need a bit more. They're going to need to, I believe, hope that the Seahawks lose 2 out of 3, and the Rams to lose 1 out of 3 and then win out. which I think the Cardinals and Rams play each other. So if the Cardinals are able to just beat that Rams team and then hope the Rams are able to take care of the Seahawks and then the Vikings take care of the Seahawks, the Cardinals will be in a great spot. So we're not even going to rule them out yet. But that is going to do it. Hope you enjoyed. I did. I forgot to talk about the AFC path, but it's really simple for a lot of those teams. Realistically, the Ravens are in. They're in such an outside world where they're not. We're just going to say they're mathematically in because of how favorable their matchups are for the rest of the season. Now, the Broncos and Chargers, whoever loses that game is in a bit of trouble. Whoever wins is in. The Colts, if the Colts win out and whoever loses out of that Broncos-Chargers game lose out, they're in. Dolphins, same exact situation, but they're going to need the Colts to lose at least one, and they're in. Same thing with the Bengals, but they're going to need the Colts and Dolphins to lose one as well. So it really just comes down to if the Broncos or Chargers lose out, one of those teams who win out would get a playoff spot. But if all three of those teams who need to win out just lose a game, then the Broncos and Chargers are in regardless, even if they lose out. So both those teams have a really favorable, situation. But that is officially going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did. I will see you guys next time, which should be Rams franchise. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.